Thank you very much, and I join Meron in welcoming everybody, especially the media, to this press conference. I thank Alcalde to agreeing to come and lead this gathering, this meeting today. It is not common to have a political party present an alternative national budget. But as we all know, we are in an unprecedented time. Never before have we seen the quick and global devastation of this virus in the history of mankind. Over 500,000 people have lost their lives. In 3 months, COVID-19 has brought the global economy to its knees. Many countries are already fighting the second wave. There's no vaccine in sight, at least in my view, for the next 12 months. Unity Fiji has decided to lead the charge, to be proactive, to think outside the box, and to cross conventional boundaries in a genuine effort to save both lives and livelihoods. We have decided to deliver an alternative national budget, which we are calling the Unity budget. Unity is a key word in these difficult times. In my mind, we must work together, not for the sake of politics, not for the sake of our own egos, not for the sake of the next elections, but for the sake of the hundreds of thousands of families that are suffering from reduced or no income at all. I think we owe them and their families all the support we can give them, and we owe them now. As you know, preparing national budget is not an easy feat. So why have we decided to prepare one? Let me tell you 2 reasons. Soon after the start of the pandemic, many of you would have known we have been releasing suggestions on ways that we can best respond to the threat of COVID-19. It is therefore logical that we pool all our proposals into this one document, which we are calling the alternative budget. Second, we are encouraged by the positive feedback of our proposals. Unity Fiji has offered our assistance to government to help put a roadmap together. Many people have asked us, we like your proposals, but will this government ever listen? I think we know the answer to that. Let me also say that some people have told us that they don't like us offering suggestions to this government. I believe that their concerns are misplaced. In my view, if we help the government do the right things, the people, you, me, and your families are better off. Alternatively, if government fails to do the right things, who suffers? It's the people. Therefore, if we really put the people first, as our Unity Fiji logo says, and it's at the back of me, we have no choice as a party but to stand up and offer our help. What the government does with our suggestions is entirely his decision. But in my mind, this is not the time to play political game. It is not the time to withhold contributions for political gains. When hundreds of thousands of our people are suffering, we must all stand up and help. Many may ask us whether Unity Fiji has the credentials to prepare this Unity budget. The short answer is a resounding yes. What are our credentials? First, I have prepared many national budgets as the former Permanent Secretary for Finance. I know the techniques of budgeting. I know the financial challenges that we have brought upon ourselves through poor financial management, which has handicapped our ability to fully respond to the ongoing economic destruction of this COVID-19. More importantly, I know through practical experience, not textbook, possible solutions to this problem. Let me tell you this, I'm the only permanent Secretary for Finance in the modern era that has posted a budget surplus. Second, as a former governor of the Reserve Bank of Fiji, I had rescued the Fiji economy in the past two crises, in 2000 and again in 2006. I know what crisis management requires, which are decisive, bold, and quick actions. And third, I've worked at both the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, and I fully understand the global economic context of this crisis. Unity Fiji therefore believes that our credentials to prepare this Unity budget is second to none. We are also signaling the people of Fiji, especially the youth, that we are capable of restoring fiscal stability to this country. We have the experience, the skills, and the knowledge to rescue our beloved country from what I believe is a financial disaster. In short, we are fit to govern Fiji. We are calling this budget an alternative national budget. We obviously do not have the information to prepare a full national budget, especially the specific allocations to heads of expenditure. This Unity budget is therefore a policy and a strategic budget. First, we set the strategies taking into account the economic and financial projections. Next, we translate these strategies into revenue and expenditure allocations at the aggregate level. And lastly, we then identify specific revenue and expenditure measures to achieve our strategies and in particular bring stability back into the government's financial position. The theme of this Unity budget is saving lives and saving livelihoods, and it's under 5 pillars. Let me just highlight a few of those pillars. It's people-centered. We must put people first in this crisis. The incomes of 1/3 of our working population have been reduced. Families are suffering, which is turning to fear and desperation as the crisis is prolonged. The social impact in domestic violence, substance abuse, and suicides are increasing. The Unity budget is focused on easing the suffering of the people through the budget and not through their own savings. Our centerpiece in this people support is a 1 billion cash support to the income of workers that have been affected by the pandemic. Second, these are unprecedented times. Conventional thinking will not work. I hear a lot of people saying conventional issues. A prolonged economic crisis will impose, as we all know, more suffering. We believe this Unity budget introduces innovation, creativity to find solutions that suit us and ease the suffering and get us back on our feet as quickly as possible. Third, we support the growth. The Unity budget will support growth through a combination of fiscal and monetary policy measures. The fourth is responsible budget. While we accommodate all that we need in expenses, I'm pleased to say that this Unity budget is a responsible one. We are stabilizing government financial position through new revenue measures, which I will announce later, and the identification of savings from wastage and non-essential spending. And lastly, we then reallocate those savings back into priority areas of the budget. Let me turn now to COVID-19. Let me highlight some of the impact, just for context, of this COVID-19. We estimate that more than 130,000 workers have either lost their jobs on reduced pay or live without pay. This is more than one-third of the formal workforce. And this is not including those that are in casual employment. And this number will rise. The government has revealed that its debt position will get over 60% of GDP. We started with 49. We're now going to over 60%. And with these numerous demands on our expenses, this debt position of government will balloon to 80% of GDP, unless we take the necessary actions now and perhaps follow some of the proposed measures in this budget. The Reserve Bank of Fiji expect the economy to decline by 21.7% this year. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the largest decline in any of our history. We estimate that poverty will rise to 50% of the population from its current level of 30%. And that will push an additional 200,000 of our people into poverty. As I said, the serious social impacts like domestic violence, suicides, reflect the financial stress that families and individuals are going through. Let me go to government responses to that COVID-19 impact. It's a big one. But I believe that the government response to date could be more bolder, clearer, quicker, and more decisive. For instance, the actual cash that government gave to the people to survive the greatest crisis of our lives was only $115 million, or 15% of the total package announced in the COVID-19 budget. Unbelievable. Second, the government has told the workers, go and get your income or your savings from FNPF. We believe that this FNPF assistance is not only inadequate, but most importantly unfair to the workers for being asked to deplete their retirement balances, while government forks out our taxpayers' money to support businesses and so forth. And I must say here, the government's handling of the economic effect of the crisis on workers has been heavy-handed. A classic example is the amendment of the Act, allowing employers to lay off workers due to COVID-19 being defined as an act of law. It is tragic that government has decided not to provide the people with hope and assurance that their livelihoods will be protected. Instead, they have used the instrument of law to justify their action. Compare this with our proposal in our response to COVID-19, which is in the budget. Our response is people-centered, as I've mentioned. We must take care of our people, the vulnerable, those that have lost their incomes, the aged, and the poor. And we believe that our approach is clearer and much stronger than government. What are we proposing? We are proposing a three-phase approach. The first phase are the immediate responses over the next 6 months to protect lives and ease the suffering of the people. The second phase are the medium-term responses over the next 12 to 24 months to stabilize government's finance and create more space, financial space, to fund the rescue packages that we sorely needed to stabilize the economy. And the last phase is the long-term measures to pull the economy up again sustainably as soon as possible. The details of this are in the budget document. Let me turn to economic outlook. We were saying all along that the negative 4.5% economic projection for 2020 by the Reserve Bank, announced in March this year, was overly optimistic. And sure enough, in just after 3 months, the RBF has revised its projection to a whopping 21.7 hole in the economy. This is the biggest decline in our history. I believe that the government and us, the people, have not fully wrapped our minds around the impact of this large annual decline of our lives. Let me just put it simply. The financial hardship that we are facing now will get worse and for a much longer period of time. As we see our safety nets grow thinner, traditional government safety nets, our savings, the impact on our daily lives will become more and more visible. Please mark my word. It is therefore, to me, critical that we focus on easing the struggle of the people. I'm afraid we do not share the optimism of the RBF of a quick 14% rebound of the economy next year. There's just too much uncertainty to be able to make an optimistic call like that. To us, a combination of the health and income factors will make the recovery of tourism long and hard. The discovery, production, and the distribution of a vaccine is an important factor in the revival of global tourist travel. And the 14-day quarantine periods at both ends on overseas trips will result only in travelers to Fiji being those for long-term stay. It is very likely that the short-stay tourism that Fiji is used to may be a long, long way away. We therefore predict that we will not restore our tourist numbers until 3 or 4 years' time. Without tourism, there's no other economic sectors that will take up the slack. That's unfortunate. And you will see that in our budget. In the graphs that are there are arrows, they're all pointing down, south. We therefore project the economy to register a modest growth of 3% next year, increasing to 5% in 2022. That means that it will take us 5 years to get back to where we were before the crisis. As you know, budgets are constructed on fiscal and monetary strategies. The Unity budget fiscal strategies, let me just say a few. We are avoiding severe reduction in total expenditure to help support income. We are identifying savings in the budget by cutting wastage and delaying non-essential spending. We are increasing budget support from donors to help keep the deficit down. And we are introducing measures to reduce the cost of borrowing immediately. And in this crisis, we can live with a higher debt stock. That's up to 70 and over. But as long as we keep the cost of borrowing sustainable. What about monetary policy? I think they should play a more prominent role than what they are doing in this crisis. And I think they should increase money supply through lending to government. This is what we call quantitative easing. It will keep interest rate low, and the threat to inflation and foreign reserves that many people are raising, to me, are very low. We must maintain a stable exchange rate. And I'm asking the supervisor of the financial system to safeguard the independence of FNPF conduct. Let me say here that we do not support any devaluation of the Fiji dollar. The competitiveness of our export is not an issue here. So devaluation will only lead to higher cost of living with no real gain in output. Economic strategies. To me, our economic strategies are clear. We must avoid the mistakes of the past. We must not waste our hard-earned money. We must raise the quality of spending. Second, we must introduce some price controls at this time, temporary as they may be, to protect the people. But third, and I think this is most important, that we diversify the economy. We have been hit hard by the COVID-19 because of our concentration on tourism. And to us, diversification does not mean that we allocate more money to the Ministry of Agriculture. We should avoid that. Our past initiatives in agriculture, and I know a lot of it, have failed miserably. We must first overhaul, to me, the model of development of all our resource-based industries. Let me go to the specific measures in this Unity budget. First, to help share the burden, and we must share this burden all across the country. The Unity budget proposes the following. We must reduce the ministers' salaries by a further 10%, including all allowances. We must reduce MP salaries and allowances by a further 10%. And we propose to reduce the salaries of top civil servants from director upwards by 20%. And lastly, reduce salaries of all other civil servants by a maximum of 10%, but to a floor of $30,000. Second, we have identified the following areas of savings. The government grants to SOEs and statutory bodies have exploded and now stands at over $1.6 billion. I believe and I suggest FRA should concentrate solely on properly fixing our potholes and our roads and reducing their overheads. So we propose to halve these grants to state-owned enterprises, to halve that, and this will save us a whopping $800 million. Miscellaneous. There is an allocation of $200 million in miscellaneous. We call this Head 50. The allocation to this head of expenditures has been growing, and to me it just reflects poor budgeting. And we propose to reduce this to below $100 million. We have this expenditure group that they call special expenses. And this ambiguous group of spending has more than doubled in the last 10 years, and it's now $119 million. Again, we propose to reduce this by at least half, saving $58 million. Vehicles. Government now spends an average of $30 million in leasing vehicles and buying new ones in a year. I remember in my days at finance, we spent less than $5 million on buying new vehicles. So we'll reduce this at least by half and explore the possibility of reverting to owning rather than leasing vehicles. The next one is consultancy. There was a $2 million allocation to consultancy in the 2019 budget, which was for the services of the international public relations company, Govis. This clearly is a political luxury, which we cannot afford. The next one is recruiting locals. We propose to review all contracts of expatriates in the civil service and SOEs to the view of localizing the positions if locals can meet the required education. And we estimate that this will save us $300 million in the medium term. Zero-based budgeting. The savings from the application of this concept of zero-based budgeting, and you understand zero-based budgeting is everything goes back to zero, to everybody, and they argue any allocation above zero And if we use that concept, we conservatively estimate that we can save $500 million. The cost of debt, we will reduce the cost of debt by $80 million per year. And these measures are in this budget. And we have identified other savings like closing our embassies that should not have been open, for instance. And we estimate that we can save those at $60 million. The least of those savings are in the AMAC budget. So, of the total savings, we estimate we can save $1.5 billion. And we propose to plow back $1 billion to priority areas. So we are reconstituting the government budget and allocating an additional $100 million to health, $30 million to education, $350 million to infrastructure, $20 million to law and order, and $10 million to welfare support. The balance of $500 million of savings is used to reduce the deficit, so we keep our debt low. And we want to restore some semblance of fiscal balance, and we are proposing the following measures. Temporarily increase VAT back to 12%, but exempt essential food items. Increase the marginal tax rate by 10 percentage points, and those earning above $100,000 to 35%. Increase the social responsibility tax by 20 percentage points, which applies to those earning over $150,000. Impose a temporary company tax surcharge of 20 percentage points on those companies making super profits, there are few, based on their return on assets. Increase import duties on all passenger vehicles by 100%, but exclude heavy machinery and trucks. Increase excise duties on alcohol and tobacco by at least 20%. Increase import duties on white luxury goods by 20%. And impose a 10% NCD levy on all sugar, preservative, and salt-based products, carbonated drinks. We also propose that we increase the telecommunications levy, they're doing very well, by 10%. And increase the fringe benefit tax by 10%. Fourth, to support economic recovery, I think the immediate focus is to raise the demand, suppress demand, and you raise that by providing money, providing income, and pull this economy up as soon as possible. So in this, we are proposing we remove the environment and climate adaptation levy. We reduce the departure tax by 50%, half it. And we increase the fuel rebate concessions to domestic shipping and fishing industry, amongst many that we can think of. Fifth, the Unity budget builds in the sale of $100 million worth of shares in EFL in 2021 and $150 million worth of ATH shares in 2022. And we're suggesting that these shares are sold only locally. Let me conclude. We have prepared this Unity budget as our contribution, as what Talatala said, to finding the best package that will help us sustain our lives and livelihoods during this COVID-19. The proposals are aligned to our three-pronged attack of saving lives, easing the suffering of the people, restoring that important fiscal balance, and rescuing the economy. And these are wrapped around the pillars of innovation, creativity, and putting people first. We are in this canoe together. Unity Fiji joins many others that have been calling for a united approach to fight this most potent threat to our lives and our livelihoods. This unity budget is submitted in the spirit of unity and togetherness. We in Unity Fiji commence this unity budget to the people of Fiji. May God bless us all, and thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've heard from Mr. Saminathan Narube. Thank you very much, sir. And before we proceed with questions from the media, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome our live streamers again this morning, to welcome you, ladies and gentlemen, who have missed the first part of our program. And I also would like to welcome the General Secretary of Unity Fiji, Mr. Satish Kumar, who is with us this morning. So I'm going to give the opportunity to the media outlets that are here. If you have any questions, we have distributed the budget well before time for you to go through it, and you've also heard from Mr. Narube, and we give you the chance now to ask maybe 2 questions from every media outlet before we'll call it a day. Vinaka. We'll probably start from FBC.
I'm Kelly Navala from FBC News. Just a question for the party leader, Mr. Narube. Have you approached the government on with the party side to actually try and help them with the pandemic and everything that's going on the economy, sorry. Maybe what is the response to you? Have you tried to approach them?
We have approached the government in the spirit of working together, finding a solution in a couple of ways. The first, we've been putting out in the media our suggestions, and I think they read the papers as well. The second, we participated in several discussions in the past 2 months, and we have articulated our views. The third, we have made a submission to the budget proposal that have been going around. We email our submission as there to government. So we've done that in those 3 channels. But you asked that important question: what is their response? And I'm sorry to say, there has been no response at all. We'll continue. We won't give up. Because I said we owe it to our people to get this message out. And let me just add to that. I'm quite disappointed with the lack of focus and dissemination of this information across Fiji. I have only seen 3 forums, I think, or 2, that has been organized around this. This is the most important crisis that we ever face. Why are we not exciting people by talking about it, bringing out our own solution, presenting it to government in around the country? We haven't done that, and I'm sorry to say, I was very disappointed with that. So we're doing that, and this is our way of saying to government, we have some suggestions. You make the decision, but these are some suggestions. Thank you.